Hello, welcome to the channel. All honor, glory, and praise be to our one and only Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. This particular conference and word today is regarding your enemy's desire for you men out there. Your enemy's desire to have you put on a dress in order to obtain work, which is employment. And I want to talk about how it is all tied into the matrix, because it is derivative of the matrix, okay? And how the matrix is a lie, it is not of God. And that is why I feel one of the reasons Father said, well, that is the reason why Father said don't conform to this world. Because in order to entangle yourself with the matrix, that's conformity. Satan has always wanted to attack manhood. That's the reason why particularly black men were addressed as boy by their enemies that were racist, the ones that were racist. They wouldn't address them as sir or mister or just by their regular name. They would call your great-great-grandfathers boy. See, that's to devalue somebody. That's to make somebody feel like he is less than a man. It comes from someone that actually, that's how that individual feels. So you have to do this reverse psychology on your enemies. That's how your great-great-grandfathers made that individual feel, or those individuals feel. But I'm not making this conference about ethnicity or anything, but I just wanted to speak on that, because I am talking about the attack on manhood. Because I do believe that men were born to be leaders, and they were designed to be leaders. That's why, if you look, the father is supposed to be the head of the household. The husband is the head of the wife. God appointed men as the head of the church. And, a lot of people have a problem with that, but I'll just say take it to the Lord, because God knows what he's doing. Because when God said that the husband is the head of the wife, the Holy Scriptures also record Eve was deceived, Adam was not. And that's not to say that this day and age that women are not up on game. But you got to look at the gender that was targeted by the enemy initially. Satan is not a man, but I will use the term, he was not man enough to approach Adam. He targeted the weaker vessel, which was Eve. He targeted a man's wife. Satan is still targeting some man's wife out there. And a lot of women are still falling into the arms and the hands of Satan, because they have exalted themselves above measure and desired to wear the pants in the union. Thus, I guess, handing their husbands the dresses, figuratively speaking. So, a lot of men out there don't have a backbone. And when you're dealing with a man that doesn't have a backbone, you've got something on your hands. Oh my gosh. But Satan knows that if he can destroy the man, which is the head, then he figures the body will follow. Let me tell you something. I will say this. Okay, I'm going ahead of myself. I was employed at a Walmart one time, located in a town called Oxford. And they had a manager there. This was a long time ago. And he was very toxic. He was very disgusting. And I just couldn't stand his attitude. He just had a pompous attitude. He was full of himself. And I was only there briefly, you guys, because I just couldn't tolerate that environment. I'm not saying that's the reason why I love, but anyway, he was very perverted. And I'm not going to speak about specific things because some of the things I don't recall. I don't want my mind to go there, because once I leave a position, it's left. I believe leaving the past in the past. It served its purpose. Move on. But I will say this: I remember them holding meetings, and there would be women in the meetings, of course, because women were employed there. And I remember this one woman specifically saying in his presence, she said something pertaining to, if the head is sick, the body is sick. Now that was her way of subliminally calling him out without jeopardizing her job, without outright saying he is the sickness in the company, in the store. Because, if the head of any type of business is sick, the body is sick. Because the head tolerates the body, and the body is in agreement with the head, because people attract what they are. I can't remember the specifics, but I do remember it was a very toxic environment, and I knew I didn't like it. I took one look at his countenance and his expression, and I knew he was toxic, and I just didn't like him. And I don't know what it is about certain managers that they employ at various locations, but they just think there's so much, and I don't know why. They have this pompous, high-minded attitude that I'm like, it's uncalled for. Because I can actually remember at another location of that particular retailer, they had a member of management there. This is a different location. And this person got into it, I believe, with the doctor. A doctor came into the store, and I don't know I can't recall exactly what the discussion was about, but the doctor was right. And this person thought that that management there, one of the managers that thought he was so much, he was going toe to toe with a doctor. I'm thinking, you ain't on that man's level. He's a doctor. I'm not trying to say a person's occupation makes them better than anybody, but I'm saying that when it pertained to them toxic things that I was witnessing up in there trying to run a store, anybody was better than them, if you ask me. So I'm not trying to say that, just a person's occupation makes them better than somebody. But I'm just saying, you got this ignorant person over here that call themselves running a store, and they're sitting here arguing with a doctor, and the man is letting him know, well, I'm a doctor. And I don't know what the whole debate was, but the doctor was right, and the person that was managing the store, he was toxic. And I don't even remember who it was, but it was one of those where the head is sick and the body will follow. And that's how it is in a lot of instances in life. And that's why the man is the target. He's the target. That's the reason why, households are broken. The fathers are not there. That's one of the reasons why, because I've seen some things on the internet that, people don't need to air everything, because there's some toxic men out there that run jacked up households, things that people allow in their house that the old school folks would not have allowed, sleepovers and boyfriends sleeping over the girlfriend's house. Back in the day, the old school folks would not have allowed that. No, you're going to leave at a certain time. It's okay to visit, but you're going to leave at a certain time, and you definitely ain't not going to be sitting up in no bedroom together. But times have changed, obviously, for the worse. But I'm not even going to go left field with that. But I just said that as a reference point to emphasize how sick the world is today in general, not everybody, and how people have strayed from tradition, and how all of this is basically the hand of the enemy at play. And that's why it's very important that we have very strong males in the world today, although that seems to be a dying breed, and sometimes even literally, because even in times past when there were strong men, and it's not about ethnicity, but I will say there were two prominent figures that come to mind that were very strong men, and they were leaders. and they were taken up out of here because they were strong and they had it within their power to make a change and make the world a better place. And they were they fought for civil rights. But I'm not going to make this about ethnicity. I'm making this about men in general being targeted and made to be effeminate, because I feel like it brings on a certain level of, I'm sorry y'all, I know I didn't, I'm sorry, I almost missed something. I couldn't get my words out. I'm sorry. A certain level of weakness. So anyway, like I was saying, that's the reason why I feel like there are certain people in Hollywood that want men to wear women's attire, because what was initially given to me, and the reason why I wanted to hold this conference, is because I believe those garments come with a certain spirit, and it's not anything holy. Satan's entire game plan is to try to make humanity be something that God never intended for him to be. And a lot of people don't believe objects can hold spirits and stuff, but I believe it can. And then, I don't put anything past Hollywood. Even as far as costumes and things that people put on. How do you know that people haven't performed witchcraft over the costumes, saying that after this man puts this dress on, let him want to be a woman or something? You just never know. You never underestimate the devil. And then, Satan is, what, y'all, I would like to really go in depth with this conference, but I'll make it surface level for right now. But the enemy, his whole game plan, his tactic, is to hold a dollar bill over somebody's head, to try to get them to conform to who he wants them to be instead of who God wants them to be. That's why you can't let money rule over you. You got to let God rule over you and let God be your provider. And I know for a lot of people it's easier said than done, because a lot of people may say, oh, well, my bills are due and this and that and the third, and I understand that. But you also got to see the hand of the devil in all of that as well. I feel like, and I could be wrong, I feel like money was created as a tool of control. And that's why, I feel like that the Matrix is founded upon the invention of money. Because money don't have nothing to do with God. That's humanity's work. Anything pertaining to the Matrix, I feel like, or the structure of this world, doesn't have anything to do with God. That's why you're not supposed to love the world. Neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And I just feel like certain garments come with certain spirits to make men effeminate. And, a lot of males have fallen in that trap, although they deny that they have. They've fallen in that trap because Satan dangled money in their faces and they needed money to pay their bills. And I'm not judging anybody. Because it's easy for people to stand in your face and tell you, and I'm talking about other people, what you should or should not do when they were not walking your shoe. But what I am saying is this: God will always make a way out of no way. And it is only a test. When people dangle things in your faces that are against God and try to get you to forsake your manhood, trade your manhood for their foolishness, I'm sorry, you guys. Hang on a minute, because I don't know what these folks got going on here. Trade your manhood for their foolishness. It's a trick of the devil. Hang on, you guys. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to do something here. Bear with me a moment. I'll continue the conference in just a moment. In the world. But yeah, so you just got to be mindful of the tricks of the devil. mindful of the things that Satan is dangling in your face is to try to get you to go against God's will. Satan's entire game plan is for you to go against the will of God and to not be the representation of God. Because, you know, whether if men like it or not, you all were created in the image of God now. You are created in the image of Father. So that alone should make you feel good about yourselves. You know, even if it's a woman, you know, we're all created in the image of God. But men are definitely created in the image of God. And the woman was taken from the man. You know, and that's why even in a marital union, you know, the husband and the wife are considered one. Bone of bone, flesh of flesh, Adam said of Eve. And the same applies for today. But the way that a wicked humanity has it in, you know, the entertainment industry in a lot of areas, you know, it's like Satan wants men to forsake who they are. And I feel like that in a lot of areas of life, that's why there's no adequate amount of leadership. And that's just how I feel about it. And I think with that said, I'm just going to wrap this conference up, but I may go more in depth perhaps later on. Not right now, but, you know, just later on perhaps. Because it's a very serious thing, because manhood is very important. And don't you know that when your manhood is attacked, I think it takes away the masculinity of this planet. It's like there's an imbalance. And I spoke about that once before, about there being, I feel like there's some type of, I feel there's a spiritual imbalance on this planet. Me personally, I can feel it. It's like there's too much feminine energy on this planet. I feel. If I'm incorrect, Father, forgive me, but that's just how I feel. It's like there's no 50-50. I feel like there's too much feminine energy on this planet, and it's creating an imbalance. And I just feel like that the devil is having a field day as a result of that. And that's why there's so much hatred between the sexes. I'm not saying everybody knows, but come on, you guys. This world is nothing like what it used to be. Even human interaction, male to female interaction, nothing like it used to be. The women are against the men are against the women. The women are trying to set up the men are trying to set up the women. There's no real genuine attraction. It seems there's just lust. I don't even see, like I said in another conference, I don't even think people even fall in love anymore. If they might, but let somebody else come along that might have a little bit more money, and the love out the window. They said our love don't live here anymore. And that's fake. I'm telling you, you cannot turn love on and off. You either got it or you don't. And I'm telling you, we live in just a fake-defied world. And I think that's why a lot of people just rather be by themselves and deal with something that's dysfunctional. And I don't blame them. Male to female relationships nowadays are dysfunctional. A lot of them. Maybe not all. Perhaps not all. No. But y'all, come on now. Y'all know it's a strangeness out there. I'm telling you. And then the men, you know, they don't want to look like men and dress like men and have that man up type persona or whatever, energy or whatever you want to call it. Because believe it or not, I feel this planet needs male energy. It needs male energy for there to be a balance. You know, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if that's why people are so insane. I don't know what it is. But I do feel that not having that balance of male and female energy, I do feel it can drive people insane in a way. Because you look at the men in the penitentiary, and there's no feminine energy in there. There's all that male energy, male testosterone, perversion, demons, devils, racist, demon-possessed guards and officials. You know, that right there alone is a hot mess hole right there. And people will be judged. But I'm telling you, you guys, there's no balance there. There's no feminine energy, I don't feel. Even there might be female guards in there, but and I know some of them do get involved with the males there, but I'm talking about normalcy, you guys. I'm not talking about no behind the shadow hookup. I'm talking about even give and take of male to female energy. This planet is just off balance. You know how the weather is jacked up and it's like hot in the wintertime and cold in the summertime? To me, I feel like it's the same with male and female energy. It's like something just ain't right, y'all. And I think just like this planet, it looks insane the way the seasons are. Well, that would explain why some males and females look insane and act insane, because I just feel like something is off. The first problem is sin. The second one is a lack of integrity, which ties into sin. Lack of integrity, lack of mutual respect, an evil heart. Because if you got an evil heart, you can't fall in love with nobody, and you can't and call it that. Because lust is not love, y'all. I might do a separate conference on that. That lust is not love. Lust is an evil desire. It's an overwhelming desire that is not of God. It's not attraction. I feel like there's a fine line there. I don't know, but attraction is normal, but lust is something totally different, because it's like an overwhelming craving for something, and that's not of God. But anyway, y'all, I don't want to go too much more deeper into this conference, but I could, but not right now. I may come back, like I said, at a later time and actually have a conference about the demon of lust. A lot of people don't think it's an actual spirit, but I wholeheartedly believe it is, and I have my reasons for believing that it is, based off of not word of mouth, but I don't want to give too much away, but I'll just say somebody that I didn't really know that well, but I was briefly acquainted with. I knew they had entertained that spirit. And I'm not trying to be funny, but I will say this. When I looked at their eyes, they had dirty eyes. Yeah, I'm not trying to be funny. Lord Jesus knows I'm not trying to be funny, but y'all, I could just tell that their eyes had an overwhelming intake of filth. And I can't explain it, but it just looked like that they had beheld so much filth that their eyes just weren't looking right. And, you got to guard your eye gate and your ear gate. But yeah, I don't want to go left field, because I'm supposed to be talking about men wearing women's clothes in Hollywood. But as you can see, there's so many different angles I can take this conference. So I'm just going to end it now. And I don't want to give too much away. But as for the person I'm talking about, I could just tell, it just looked like they just sat and just absorbed porn on the regular. And I didn't even really know the person like that. It was just somebody I was acquainted with. And I just happened to look at them one day, and I could just tell, you got some filthy eyes. And isn't it, and I'm not, y'all, listen, I know y'all think I'm probably trying to be funny, but that person, I could just tell, it just looked like, I can't, listen, I want to say more, but I can't right now, but I will just say this. Be careful of what you watch, and that's for you men out there. Y'all better be careful about all this porn y'all watching. For those that this message resonate with, you better be careful about all this porn. You better guard your eye gate and your ear gate, because you're taking in filth. And whether if you know it or not, people that have a clean spirit, they can tell when you got the spirit of perversion. Let me tell you something. There are married couples out there that when you are heavily anointed, you can tell they perverts. And they married. And I know the marriage bed is not defiled, but you can't fool no spiritually inclined person. It ain't none of my business, no. But it's people out there dabbling in some weird mess, I believe. And like I said, the marriage bed, is not defiled. But I will say this: let me just get my mouth out of people's business. I'm about to end this conference. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to laugh. I'm just saying, y'all, just be careful what people dibbling and dabbling in. Be careful what you put on, fellas, because you don't know what kind of spirit is attached to that garment.